Hello and welcome everybody to our YouTube series on free agency. Each episode will look into the dealings within a single division, and if you like our content, please hit the like and subscribe button. It is free after all. And without further ado, we are going to head into the division of question. The NFC West, we had a Super Bowl team from the NFC West last season, and we're going to talk about them first of all because obviously we'll see how they're done in the off-season. And they've had to have some changes, obviously, because they were under cap issues. They lost some important players, the 49ers. They lost Javon Kinlaw, they lost Randy Gregory, Cleveland Farrell, Chase Young, Eric Armstead obviously being the big one. And then on the offensive side, they lost a little bit less because Rowan McLeod, Dwelly, Werner weren't anywhere near as important to the team as the guys that are still remaining on the team. But do we think that them losing those players are going to have a massive impact on them next season, especially only adding Devondre Campbell, Leonard Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos,
Jordan Elliott,
Malik Collins. So adding Malik Collins at defensive tackle to try and shore that up, and Devondre Campbell as well. But do we think that's enough to counteract their losses from last season?
Defensively, it might not be, but I think because the offense is so powered and the offense still have all the pieces that they had last season, they still remain favorites still in the NFC, the whole NFC conference, not just the division. They still remain division favorites. I think they have Nick Bosa, who's the alpha pass rusher, but Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos are talented players that could surprise. So I understand the deals that they got. So basically, bring them in, they can contribute. You hope maybe one of them take off within your defensive scheme, and that might work for the 49ers. For me, it's the offensive line that gives a bit of concern, because I'm not sure John Feliciano and Colton McKivitz are really good in terms of like the offensive line play.
Maybe that's something that they have to address in the draft as well.
Yeah, and this draft is deep on the O-line, so they might look to address that. I think what they're going to do, most likely looking at the free agents addition, especially at the D-tackle position, is the 49ers might be doing more of a rotation for the defensive tackle spots. So Bosa plays every down mostly, and they'll rotate the Floyd and Gross-Matos, and the defensive line is a combination of bodies. I think Devondre Campbell is coming there to add to their linebacking core, probably maybe as depth because of the injury to Greenlaw. Maybe Greenlaw might not be ready to start the season. I don't know if they lost him, but I think they still have him. They still have Greenlaw. But I think Greenlaw and Fred Warner, I think is one of the things that affected them in the Super Bowl, because Greenlaw got hurt early on and had to leave the game. So Devondre Campbell's had a couple of good seasons with the Packers, so coming to the 49ers. So basically it's just adding additions to an already good roster. So good free agent class.
They've lost some players, but we know that they're going to have to make some additions in the draft. Yeah,
they should be able to keep ticking over. It'll be interesting to see what happens with like Ayuk, because I think that will also affect things going over. But I think he's probably going to get signed. I think this is just smoke and mirrors.
I think they'll probably sign him after that.
I think they will.
In the draft.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Seattle Seahawks. So they acquired Sam Howell in a trade with the Commanders. I expect him to be a backup because obviously they tried a fourth and a sixth for a backup, but okay. They added Pharaoh Brown. They signed George Fant at offensive tackle. They signed Nick Harris at center. Big one, they re-signed Leonard Williams.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big one for them.
Really
they added Jonathan Hankins, Jerome Baker, Terrell Dodson, Kevon Wallace, and Rayshon Jenkins on the defensive side. Thoughts on the Seahawks acquisitions?
I think Leonard Williams.
We'll take it away. Your guy's there now. Your favorite QB.
I think Leonard Williams is a great acquisition. He's kind of like a really good, not necessarily like a pure anchor.
What keeping?
Re-signed.
Because obviously he was there. He re-signed it.
Re-signed. So I think that's the main thing over here. Sam Howell, like you said, Dilly, I don't kind of know what they're doing with this pick, because are they in the market for a quarterback in the draft as well? I think by signing Sam Howell, that's probably going to be a no. I think obviously you're going to go in with your starter.
No, it's a no, because they picked up Gino's. Gino had an option or something that they had to pick up to pay him the money to confirm he was a starter, and they did pick it up and give him that money. So
so Sam Howell as well is over there too. So that's kind of like set in place. 2 tight ends, Noah Fant is obviously the one, but then you've got Pharaoh Brown, who's, I think he's been around the league a little bit, so I want to see what they're going to do with that. Really, maybe they have one guy out, because now what happens is you don't have to try and force a 3rd or 4th receiver. Sometimes if you have like a receiving type tight end, he can take that spot as well. So that's an option. I don't really put much stock in linebackers, so haven't got much to say there. Kayvon Wallace, though, is a good signing as well, 1-year deal.
So in players that they lost Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, Devin Bush. On the defensive side, Damian Lewis, Will Disley, Colby Parkinson, DJ Dallas, and Drew Lock as a backup. So they've lost a fair number of players, but I think
Jamal Adams.
that was a disaster of them acquiring him. But it seems like the Seahawks probably are going to be there or thereabouts when it comes to playoff picture, because they're still a very capable team in general. They've got players on the offensive side of the ball that they can move the ball up and down the field. It's just whether or not the defensive side can also hold on. All right, now let's talk about the LA Rams. They added Jimmy G as backup. They added Colby Parkinson. They added Jonah Jackson, Roseboom, Murchison at DT, and Darius Williams, 3-year, $22.5 million contract at cornerback, and Cameron Curl. They didn't add a lot.
Yep.
And they didn't. Well, the big one is they lost the greatest defensive tackle in Aaron Donald.
Yeah, that is a massive one. And Kyle is very grateful for that. Because
I think everyone in that division is very grateful for that.
All the quarterbacks in that division is very grateful for that. That he's calling the quits, and I like that for him, because he's retiring at the top, and I like to see that from a player who's first ballot Hall of Famer. Definitely in the top 3 defensive players of all time
as well.
Yeah, top 3 defensive players of all time in NFL history. LT 1, Reggie White 2, Aaron Donald 3. That's how I rank him in that order. And he done well to put himself in that bracket, because there's been so many great defensive players. And to get himself in that top 3 is a testament to his hard work, his talent, and shout out to him. Even though he terrorized my Cardinals for years, hey, you got to respect game.
He terrorized the entire league. He received triple teams, which is pretty much unheard of. And
check the stats. Most of his sacks came against the Cardinals anyway, because our O-line was always atrocious. But anyway, game respect game anyway. But with the Rams, the biggest acquisitions they made is the offensive line. Again, re-signing Kevin Dotson and signing Jonah Jackson. Those are 2 huge deals to keep their offensive line going and solidifying that offensive line. So that is a big move.
Allowing them to move the ball up and down the field as well. That's a really important thing for them.
I think they brought in Jonah Jackson, especially to get some more protection for Matthew Stafford, because they're trying to see if they can extend
a little bit too much.
Yeah, this offseason, so they're trying to see if they can show up, especially pass protection wise, because they could always find ways to run the football. But I think Jonah Jackson is an offensive guard that, when they check his PFF scores, he's good at pass protecting than run blocking. So they brought him in to help with their pass blocking in that instance. And they also signed Darius Williams back in the cornerback room. So they made very solid additions to be second favorites in the division for sure, behind the 49ers. Depending on how their draft go and how, Aaron Donald's a big loss, but depending on how the defense can stay competitive, they will challenge the 49ers, but 49ers still got the edge for the division. But very solid free agency moves, though.
All right, moving on finally to the last of the NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals. They acquired Desmond Ridder in a trade. They had DJ Dallas. They had Chris Moore.
Special teams.
They add Jonah Williams, offensive tackle, on a 2-year, $30 million contract.
Starting right tackle.
And then they add three other offensive linemen: Colon, Elijah Wilkinson. Re-sign Colon, Wilkinson, sign Evan Brown, and then more signings in the trenches. Justin Jones, 3-year, $30 million contract. Bilal Nichols, Kaya Stonga, and then linebackers Chris Barnes re-signed. Mac Wilson, 3-year, $12.75 million contract. Sean Murphy-Bunting, and then a couple of special teams players in Aaron Brewer and Blake Gillikin. So, Peter, take it away. What are your thoughts on how the Cardinals have done in the off-season so far?
I think off-season so far, free agency has been okay. We haven't really gone out and splash, even though we have the money to do so. But I think it's because of our GM and the way he prefers to build, and looking at his background, he's looking to build through the draft. I think that's the first thing he said this off-season, that this is a rebuild of getting key pieces, building the team to compete for the long term. So and I think Monty's vision is to turn the organization from have one great season and then drop to having consistent 10-win seasons. And the only way you do that is primarily building through the draft. But our roster was so bad, we need to add bodies, especially on the defensive line. The Justin Jones signing, for me personally, is a bit of an overpay for 3 years, $30.1 million deal. But I think they believe that he will be a good fit for the scheme and the defense that we run. So hopefully he can prove us wrong. But I like the signings so far that we've made in free agencies. These are players that are starters. The biggest key for the players that we signed for our team for the Cardinals is that a lot of these players, apart from their O-line bodies like Christian Cullen, Elijah Wilkinson, but the defensive side, Justin Jones, Bilal Nichols, Kyrie Stonga, Mark Wilson, especially the two defensive tackles, or the three of them, they don't miss games. They've all started 17 regular season games, including Jonah Williams also don't miss games. So I think because of the injuries that we had to our roster, even though we're playing hard, we had some injuries that affected us down the stretch. He went for durable guys. And all these guys are 26. They are all 26, 27 years.
The one thing about the Cardinals, they haven't had a lot of players lost and haven't had a lot of players gained. It's not been a massive turnover of people. So,
no, it hasn't.
Especially with last season being effectively a lost season because of Kyler was injured for the majority of it.
Yep.
It's more of just, it's going to be interesting to see where the roster really is at this coming season.
And I think that comes in the draft. I think this free agency period is just adding bodies to get the roster to be competitive again and trying to find the core players through the draft, because we have 11 draft picks in this upcoming draft, and this is setting up for Marv to come in and dominate, because we didn't sign any wide receivers in free agency.
Correct. It didn't seem like the case. So hopefully he ends up in Indianapolis Colt. I say that every time just as a wind-up. But there we have it. That is our breakdown of the NFC West. And make sure everybody likes and subscribes this video and all the other videos on the divisional breakdowns that we've had to date.